that just takes you back, doesn't it? Fraggle Rock wasn't just a kid's show. It was a masterpiece of puppetry and pure imagination. But here's the thing. There's a whole lot more to Fraggle Rock than you might actually remember. From its groundbreaking messages about unity and environmentalism to the secret behind those iconic songs, this show was ahead of its time in ways that will blow your mind. So stick around as we discover some hidden details and some behind-the-scenes secrets and the unexpected legacy of this classic. Whether you grew up with the Fraggles like me, or you're just discovering them now for the first time, trust me, you're in for a treat. And I'm willing to bet that number 3 and number 2, you probably just really did not know. So stick around, enjoy yourself, have fun, and let's get into the surprising things you may have never known about Fraggle Rock. Was that Traveling Matt?
Macho Man Randy Savage, the cream of the crop.
Yards! He scores! The Bulls lead 80.
Girl, your hair's so nappy, Wilson couldn't pick it.
This is Max Headroom.
Are you kidding?
First, in the USSR. So imagine we're sitting in the middle of the Cold War. A lot of us were children at the time as we were approaching the end of it. And then something magical and colorful happens. Fraggle Rock becomes the first American show aired in the Soviet Union at that time. See, this all came about in '84 when Jim Henson traveled to Russia to collaborate with legendary Russian puppeteer, God forgive me for this name next, Sergei Obraztsov. I think I'm close. I think I'm close. Inspired by the experience, Jim Henson was determined to bring his show to Russian audiences. Now, thanks to the success of The Dark Crystal and Labyrinth at the Moscow Film Festival, he successfully sold Fraggle Rock to Russian television. Now, here's something wild. Just 10 months after the Fraggles appeared on television over in Russia, the Berlin Wall came tumbling down. Coincidence? Possibly. But as Henson Company activist Karen Falk put it, we always joked around that Fraggle Rock brought the end to the Cold War. Now that is the power of this type of TV magic. Down at Woozle Rock? Now here's a wild one. Did you know that the Fraggles were not always called Fraggles? In the early stages of development, Jim Henson wanted to call them Woozles. But there was a tiny problem with that name. Winnie the Pooh had already claimed this name for his mischievous imaginary friends. So, back to the drawing board they went. At one point, the show was even going to be called Fraggle Hill. According to them, it apparently sounded too British. However, I couldn't imagine that anyway. I tried to sing that song. Down at Woozle Hill, it just doesn't quite have the same ring to it. Fraggle Rock Remix. Now, if you ain't hip, not everyone around the world got the same Fraggle Rock, which is kind of cool in its own right if you think about it. Now, depending on where you lived, the outer space, you know, where Traveling Matt used to go, they looked completely different. Why? Because the creators wanted Fraggle Rock to feel personal, like Sesame Street, which, fun fact in case you didn't know that, Sesame Street didn't always look like New York City in every country it aired in. So here in America, we had Doc, the human tinkerer that chats with his dog. But in Canada and Germany, he was an inventor. In England, he was a lighthouse keeper. And in France, he was a baker. And even the dog got a cultural twist. Instead of being called Sprocket like he was here in the US, he was called Croquette. Every version had its own local actors, which made Fraggle Rock feel true to its audience. The OGs of HBO. Now, before things like The Sopranos redefined television or shows like Sex and the City helped make Manolo Blahnik a household name, before one of my favorite shows, The Wire, helped pull us into the gritty streets of Baltimore as an original HBO show, there was Fraggle Rock. Yep, you heard that right. HBO's first original show wasn't a mob drama or political satire or a deep existential detective thriller. Nope. It was the puppet-driven musical underground world of the Fraggles and Doozers, and one very wise trash heap. This quirky, colorful show was critical to HBO's evolution. Without it, who knows if the network would have took that major leap into making all these fantastic original shows later. So we owe a big Muppet-sized thank you to the Fraggles, because without them, prestige TV as we know it may have never existed. Lost in the UK. So let's say you're a fan of Fraggle Rock in the UK, and you imagine taking your remote, flipping on the TV, hoping to relive a piece of your childhood, all to find out that the UK version is nowhere to be found. Instead, all that's left are the American episodes. Why? Because most of the British episodes of Fraggle Rock are gone, wiped out, done, erased, vanished into the void of history. Now, if you're thinking, wait, wasn't that the only type of thing that happened back when we had black and white TV shows? You wouldn't be wrong. However, the BBC had a notorious history of erasing tapes, which led to the loss of a lot of episodes, including things like Doctor Who, Dad's Army, and countless others. But this happened to Fraggle Rock, which was a show that came on in the 80s. Out of 96 episodes, only 12 were recovered. The rest? Lost to time. And here's the kicker. To find the rest, it's not going to be found in some dusty BBC studio basement. It's actually only going to be found if former fans who taped the show on VHS bring them forward. So if you're in the UK, before you chuck that old stack of old VHS tapes from the basement, you might want to take a second look. You might just be sitting on a lost piece of TV history and maybe a little bit of gold. Healing the world. Imagine a world where creatures of all kinds, big, small, furry, fuzzy, unknowingly depend on one another. Jim Henson had a big, beautiful, and bold dream for the show. He wanted to, by his quote, create a show to stop war. Fraggle Rock wasn't about taking sides. It was about pure joy. It was about showing people, especially kids, that harmony is possible, that we're all connected, and that getting along isn't just a nice idea. It's a necessity. For years, those behind the show laughed at its lofty mission, which was to save the world. Sounds grand, maybe even a little far-fetched, but as producer Michael Frith pointed out, maybe it's not so far-fetched after all. As he said, and quoted, Fraggle Rock's simple ambition was to open kids' eyes to the interconnectedness of all things and the unassailable fact that their own actions would have consequences. And isn't that exactly what the world needs? A reminder that every choice we make, every action we take ripples outward. Maybe Fraggle Rock wasn't just a kid's show. Maybe, just maybe, it was a quiet revolution wrapped in laughter, music, and a few lovable, messy-haired creatures. The naming of Fraggles. Did you know that some of your favorite Fraggle Rock characters have names straight out of Hollywood's coveted playbook? For example, let's take Traveling Matt. His name isn't just a quirky moniker, it's actually a clever nod to Traveling Matt, a visual effects technique that's used to blend multiple images together, which is exactly how his adventurous segments were created. And then there's Gobo. No, not the fearless leader of the Fraggles, not that Gobo. But a gobo is a real term in the film industry. A gobo is a tool used to shape and reform light. Kind of like how Gobo lights the way for his friends. That's pretty cool, right? The Fraggles are rock stars. This shouldn't be hard to believe, right? The Fraggles are absolute rock stars. Back in 2012, Ben Folds 5 dropped a music video for the song Do It Anyway. And guess who stole the show of that video? You guessed it.
Do it anyway, do it anyway, do it anyway, do it anyway, do it.
Watching them groove with the band was pure nostalgic gold, proving that once again, the Fraggles are not just underground dwellers, they're rock stars in their own right. Fraggle Rock on the big screen. So imagine this, Fraggle Rock on the big screen. It'll be colorful, musical, and full of all of that magic that we remember as kids. Sounds amazing, right? Well, check this out. Believe it or not, since 2005, there's been a Fraggle Rock movie in the works. Yes, it is true. And in 2015, it seemed like our dreams were about to come true. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, you know, from Third Rock from the Sun.
Yes.
Great! Great! Tell me exactly how it's done.
Signed on to produce and star in the film for New Regency. But as any of us Fraggle-loving fans at this age know, sometimes things don't go according to plan. By 2020, Gordon Levitt unfortunately broke the news that the film just wasn't going to happen. Dang. He told Variety magazine that there are so many films in development. We all spend time working on lots and lots of things that just don't ever come to fruition. And unfortunately, this was one of them. Maybe sometime in the future, someone else will pick up the Fraggle Rock project and we'll all get the movie we all want to see. Fraggle Rock lives on. Nostalgia alert, Fraggle Rock isn't just for us Xers. It's back and ready to get a whole new generation of fans. Thanks to DVDs and streaming services, the old series is ready to take on a brand new fan base. However, on April 25th, 2014, Hulu kicked things up a notch. They launched its very first series for Hulu Kids called Doozers. This fresh, fun show introduced the all-new crew of those tiny, fun-loving workers from the Fraggle Rock universe. So you have us that grew up living with the Fraggle Rock songs and tunes, and now another generation that is experiencing the Fraggles for the first time, which means the Fraggle Rock legend will certainly live on. And there we are, my good people, 10 things I bet you didn't know. I mean, you might have known some of them, but did you really know them all? Tell me the thing in the comments, the one you didn't know, or the one you were shaky about. Or if you got them all, you might be a Fraggle Rock genius. And if you are, 2 claps for you, my friend. But you all know what to do, right? Like, comment, subscribe, yada, yada. You know what to do. But the real thing I want you to do is to love you, love somebody else, and I'll see you very soon. Enjoy your day.